Hi there. I promised you a video talking about Buster, and I think this is a really important conversation to have. Over the last 18 months, it has been all about Alec Murdaugh, Maggie and Paul, the wider family, the boat case, all of these other things. And the forgotten victim in all of this is Buster. Now, regardless of what you think of the trial, the outcome, whatever else, he is the person who is left in the world having to deal with all of this. In a very short period of time, he lost his mum, his brother, and his granddad, all of whom were absolutely treasured members of the family. Paul may have been a mess up. There may have been sibling issues with Paul using Buster's ID and all of those other things. We all have moments with our siblings where we want them to grow up and be better people, but that's still his brother. And it is a tragic series of events. Very shortly after that, he comes to terms with his dad's financial crimes and how deep the addiction ran. He's had to just trauma after trauma deal with it and keep going, as well as reapplying to law school and trying to keep his relationship with other people, his girlfriend, the family, whoever, going. He has been interviewed after interview. He's had to put one foot in front of the other for nearly 2 years. You then add into that his dad's arrest and the trial, being on camera and watched the world over. It is not like everyone in the world has been watching this, but he is a known figure now. And he has to live on the outside with that trauma, with trying to pull his life together, with the finances and the legal aspects from all of that. And just the emotional toll of all of that grief and the grief of his dad being found guilty, whether he believes his father committed the crimes or not, he still has to deal with that grief, that guilt, that generational pressure, that peer pressure from dead people, that the family name comes first, that you must be successful and all of those other things. And weighing up, having to deal with the two people or the multiple people that Alex Murdaugh is. Now, what I mean by that is we are all someone different to everyone we know. Everyone sees a slightly different aspect of us, and their interpretation of who we are is based on their life experience and their experience of us. So to Buster, he is a beloved father, a strong family figure, a friend, a companion, a confidant. And to the outside world, he is now a convicted killer, a family annihilator, a liar, an addict, a fraudster. And it is very difficult to reconcile those things. It is very difficult to see someone as a whole person that is outside of our experience of them, to remember the good and the bad and have that be a complete scene. Now, there's a woman called Mandy who is the daughter of the happy face killer. She did, I think she's still running this series where she meets with the victims of serial killers, their families, and other people who were affected, but also with their children, their family members, so that she can try and bring healing to both sides, because the children are as much a victim of these double lives, these second and third layers of lies, of personality, of all of those things. Buster falls into that category again, regardless of whether he believes his dad did it or not. He is still having to reconcile this public image, these crimes, and everything associated with it, with the man that he knew and still knows. You can be two things. You can be a loving, wonderful father and a terrible human being at the same time. And we have seen this in the way that BTK's daughter speaks about her experience of him and reconciling those two things, knowing what a monster her dad was, but also knowing that when they went out and they were in the outside, the world outside, when they went camping and fishing and all of those things, he was an amazing dad. And there is a stigma. These people cannot say that openly in the world outside. They can't say that to random strangers on the street because they are seen as bad, as monstrous. Because to us, looking in, we see the ultimate crime, you know, the culmination of that life leading to whatever happened. We have to remember that Alex didn't start out with an addiction. He wasn't born with an addiction. He wasn't born going into stealing money. He wasn't born into he wasn't set out from the beginning to be this person. We are the sum of our experiences and our circumstances and the choices that we make in any given situation. And Buster should not be tainted. The sins of the father should not be visited on the son, to paraphrase. And I think we need to remember that. Buster is a victim of this situation. He is a victim. He has lost his family. He has lost pretty much he's lost all of his immediate family. He has probably lost friends and confidants and people he thought would be more supportive of him, his family, his dad, whatever, because their relationship. You listen to Rogan and some of the other people on the stand talking about the Murdaughs being a second family. And he's lost some of that. He is a victim. And it is just unbelievably important that we remember that. He did not cause his father's actions, any of them. He did not cause his mother and brother's death. It was nothing to do with him. He was nowhere near it. He made none of the decisions leading up to that, regardless of whether Alec did it or not. And there needs to be compassion for Buster. He is going through and has been going through this consistent, deep trauma for nearly 2 years. That is not something you get over really quickly. I really hope he is getting help and therapy, that he has a good support system, because he's going to need that. He is really going to need that. He is going to come across some very complicated feelings if he hasn't already. His head is going to be very noisy with this. I hope that he does go back to law school and he works his butt off and goes into victims advocacy, the Innocence Project, something that does good, that puts good out in the world for his own sanity more than anything else. I hope he doesn't perpetuate the cycles, that generational pressure that has been inflicted generation after generation, that was part of what has caused this whole situation. Buster will probably never ever see this, but if you do, please look after yourself, recognize that these feelings are really difficult and that is okay. That your support network have your back, and I hope they do. Please get therapy. please change that cycle and do something bigger and better with your life. And if you ever want to get your side out, if you ever want to talk to someone who is compassionate about family issues, about generational pressure, about trauma from previous generations, and someone who wants to hear from you about your experiences, then you know where I am. Please reach out, because I would love to know how you are coping, how you are doing, and if there is anything you want the world to know, anything you want me to know, as someone who has followed this closely and understands that none of this is your fault. It's never going to happen. Buster is never going to see this, but the point stands. And I hope that you agree with me, that you understand all of this and it makes sense. Let me know your thoughts down below on what Buster is going through, and what advice would you give him? What would you say to him to be compassionate and to let him know that we understand that what someone else does is not his responsibility? Thank you very much for your time. I've been Craftalytical, and I will speak to you soon.